everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match of Beyond All Reason, where I'm very excited today because we get to watch a couple of pros play one of my favorite maps of all time. It's a map that goes by the name of Failed Negotiations, and if you've tuned in for the streams, 12 to 4 PDT, on every Saturday, you're more than likely going to see this map, because I just adore it. I think it's got some cool lanes, it's got naval, it's got land, it's got hover potential even. It's a rare mix, and it's a fun mix. And today, spotting in a curious position here is the blue commander. Now, this perplexed me when I saw it in the replay selector, the replay website, but this actually makes a lot of sense here for our blue commander. Okay. It's gonna be Polygon, 39 open skill, and representing the Stud clan, apparently. It's gonna be none other than the blue commander Polygon here, going for some good old-fashioned Armada naval gaming. And gonna be gaming indeed here, so this is... I guess I should talk about why this is unique. Why don't we meet our red commander and then we'll jump back to this. We'll circle back around to it. Felm's going to be the red team leader here. Spawning as a Cortex commander going into those bots. It's necessary when you're playing on this hill slide right here. Bots are the only ones that can traverse this. I don't believe hovercraft or vehicle. Hovercraft might be able to traverse this, but vehicles definitely can't. It means you have to play bots in this position. So Felm's forced into those Cortex bots, apparently opting to go for Cortex over Armada in this situation. Gonna be playing as the red commander, 34 open skill, and showing us some high-level plays, certainly. We've got the res bot out, no doubt, to eat up a bunch of trees and help stimulate the energy economy early on. In fact, gonna be a little bit greedy and go for 2. Okay, I don't mind it. There's plenty of rocks to eat up around the coasts here as well, so getting those res bots out is very valuable. They can easily eat up all those rocks and pay for themselves. It's only a matter of getting them into position and managing to, keep it all alive and long enough to repay themselves. Now, why is this position unique? Well, typically, let's see if maybe, on this other side we can see something a bit more standard. Typically, this is more common with what we'll see here. Sephi going into the bot lab to get a constructor out, using the constructor to build these metal extractors, and then eventually reclaim all this metal here as well. 350 metal is pretty impressive. And then eventually you get into the water here. Now, Sephi hasn't gone to the water, which is a little bit strange. I'm actually surprised to see this build power so close. Oftentimes what we'll see is commanders will opt to go for the build power about right here so that they can try and get it to affect the naval lane over here, as well as, you can see, you can just barely fit a lab right there, where it can sort of be barely accessed by the build power right there. There's a really thin strip where you can put it down and it works really nicely. Not going to be the weapon of choice here for Sephi. Instead going to be going for just a centralized constructor here, and then going for a couple of those constructors to make a ton of energy. So the reason this is so interesting is Polygon has gone for, I believe, the teamwork strat. Yeah, you can see sending over a bunch of metal to Wake and Bake, steering a Lazarus as well as a construction bot in order to get the blue commander up and running in the backline with these metal extractors, and no doubt eventually going to build some wind turbines and whatnot here using the constructor as well. Con turrets around as well just to help with upgrading those to T2 mexes whenever that does happen is also a really fun way to do that. An easy way to scale, certainly a passive one. And it means that this lab is very far forward. This is kind of great, actually, because obviously expanding backwards is way easier than expanding forwards. You have to fight for every inch you expand forwards. You don't necessarily have to fight for every sliver of ocean that you have to expand backwards. So it means that with just a couple of dolphins and an early constructor, this entire naval lane has been completely locked down. Is this meta? Polygon showing us some strategic gaming. I love it. I love to see it. And the Naval Lab doesn't really require much in the way of build power or anything either, which is another one of those lovely things. Until you get to about 15 to 20 metal production, that's when you start to produce more metal than you actually can spend out of the laboratory. I think even on a destroyer, it'll only spend 20 metal per second. So you typically, most of the time, are not actually going to be spending all of your, or you will rather actually spend all of your metal out of that laboratory. It's really, really nice because it means you can just walk your constructor forward or your commander forward, like Polygon is going for here, trying to grab the metal extractors, and then eventually also, no doubt, going to be repairing a bunch of these boats here. Alright, we got a scout plane going over, and it looks like Genesis is eating up most of the rocks, if not all the rocks in the midsection here, claiming that 4.8 metal per second metal extractor is very, very nice, but it's important that we grab the other ones as well. We are eventually going to get there as the constructor builds the other metal extractors and moves on towards the front line. This map is very strange because your tech possession is kind of right in the middle right here, so it's always a bit of a cluster to try and figure out whose mexes are whose, what belongs where, but I'll say one thing, we definitely need to see these mexes grabbed up right here. Yeah, Chaos Lemons, the green commander, needs to get on top of sending these mechs, or sending a con out here to build these mexes. The longer those go unclaimed, the more and more metal is going down the drain every second. Nice to see, though, that the Geo was rushed out, so at the very least that energy production is going back to team and helping out with getting that, team-based economy up and running very, very nicely. Resbot going to make short work of a couple of trees surrounding the dead commander right here as we go ahead into T2 for Super Oath. Super Oath 12, the hot pink commander here. Blue Comp trying to get cheeky with it, sneaking a couple of these dolphins past. I don't think you're going to get away with it. The destroyer is out to fire away at range at those. Just maybe. The dolphins have one advantage here, and it's just their sheer speed. They are incredibly fast. You know what? This fight actually looked a whole lot worse for a second. Now it's not looking terrible here. Armada frigates actually capable of dealing a huge amount of damage with those twin guns if they're positioned correctly. If both of the cannons are firing at the same time, you can actually burst down most targets really quickly. Yeah, and we're going to prioritize the destroyer. Nicely done. Loads of plasma fire coming out of this this frigate right here, but it takes down the early destroyer. That's a trade that's definitely well worth it. Dolphin here thinking about getting back in there, but definitely not going to survive. Frigate here will be self-destructed to try and avoid giving away as much metal as possible. With the res sub out and available to resurrect or reclaim a whole bunch of this, though, this definitely I wouldn't say is an advantage for the blue commander, but it does thin out that army. Oh, and I see. Polygon just going for some cheeky strategies here. Walking the commander over now that that destroyer is gone. Knows that there's not really any way that destroyer is coming back anytime soon. We do have a res sub to resurrect it, but it's going to be a little while before that happens. Yeah, you can see about 1% per second, maybe a little less than that. Aggressive gaming coming out from the blue commander, who's gone into a little bit of build power on the land here as well, so it's not as easy to harass with those boats. Obviously, frigates or destroyers try to combine those two into a single unit. A long-range frigate would be a nightmare to go up with. A frigate or destroyer would be able to easily hit this, but for instance, you know, out here brawling on the ocean, it might not be the primary target. Rocketeers battling it out in the midsection here. The left-hand naval lane is in a bit of a stalemate, but definitely way more metal on the field right now for the orange commander as opposed to the cyan one. However, we do have much more. Well, we're moving the lab forward, so that's we're trying to use that defender's advantage offensively here. Oh, look at that. We have Legion in the game, too. Aha. Always late to notice that because I assume it's never turned on, but I'm so thrilled whenever I do get a chance to take a look at a game that has Legion enabled. Here's some of those ballista, those medium rocket bots firing their gigantic torpedo-shaped missiles out towards the enemy here, and you can see they do a huge amount of damage, a stupid amount of damage at such tremendous range. They're very, very good. They're very expensive, too. At 160 metal a pop, they cost more than a thug. But if you can manage to get them trading out for any amount of time, they can pretty much always eventually trade out pretty efficiently here. We have a hive coming up as well. Carry 6 drones, cost 50 metal and 500 energy each. Quite useful for, well, dual purpose actually. They're quite useful for scouting. As you can see, they'll sort of reveal everything in this area, but also, of course, they're also quite decent at doing a little bit of poking damage, which sort of keeps things busy. Like the construction turret, you can see, is busy trying to repair over here rather than repairing the front line, perhaps, or anything like that. And they also activate the flanking as well, which is all, you know, all very good benefits for those, what do they even call it? The little drones. I don't know if these drones have a name. The bumblebees or whatnot. What'd I just miss? Hold on, I'm gonna back up.
Battle paused. Battle started.
Backed off just a second here to see the shenanigans going on, and just in time to watch as Polygon moves forward here after destroying the lab with a little bit of a run-by, sends the commander into the back line. And this is exactly what we were expecting. As we saw that commander move forward here, suddenly it means that Polygon is in the back line denying this from, well, Sushi Show, the maroon commander here, trying to set up an LLT, using that underwater laser beam to fire away at the commander, doing tons of damage, and completely denying this side of the map. Well, okay. It's a very cheeky way of winning this early game battle, but it is enough. Polygon using that commander offensively rather than defensively. Most commanders would just repair their forces with that commander. Polygon opting to go for a little bit of aggression with the commander instead. Okay. Getting the reclaim off here as well to build a whole bunch of these boats. Makes sense how all of a sudden the blue commander has ended up on this side of the map and has suddenly ended up completely owning this side of the, well, the sea. Bomber in the air here getting shot down by one of these anti-air boats here. And how dangerous is that? Yeah, Destroyer is now on the field and does tons of damage, stupid amounts of damage, as the blue commander has already lasered down about 40% or so of that maroon commander's HP bar. What a funny way of playing this. I would not be surprised if we start to see this becoming more and more common here. Big old dolphin run by here as well, though. This is actually fabulous. Couple of anti-air boats included, which is always quite nice, of course, as you can see, shutting down. Oh, okay. The self-D on the commander to try and take out as many of those boats as possible. Doesn't catch them all, though, and so a ton of dolphins will still make it through. But that was, yeah, very, very nice right there from the Cyan commander. Trying to do anything and everything possible. Oh, look at that. Stealing the metal, though. The orange commander has the construction boat to follow this up. What a cheeky play. Yeah, well thought out by the orange commander, Sephi here, who sends in the con boat alongside all this to eat up any of the wreckages that might be generated back here. Reactionary torpedo launcher is going to come up and running right here from the Cyan commander, Sivan. Going for a couple of these, as many of them as possible. 2 of them are up and running, and a third one might just barely come up and online in time here. Torpedo launchers do a ton of damage, but so do dolphins. Yeah. Torpedo launchers do eventually fall. Okay. Orange commander ravaged by the, or rather Cyan commander ravaged by the dolphins. Meanwhile, the maroon commander has been pulled apart right here on the coastlines by the blue forces, who are now wrapping their way around sneakily but surely, trying to find their way into the backline right here of the orange commander, Sephi, who's just gone ahead and built a bajillion dolphins. Dolphins are interesting, but one of their shortcomings is that they can't actually kill those units under the water. So as you can see right here, they don't actually have a way to kill those metal extractors. It means the economy, yeah, the economy for Sivan is actually fairly intact. The only issue is you don't really have a way to spend it without enough energy and without enough build power here. Destroyers headed across the map in a little bit of a pincer maneuver. Bombers trying to clean all this up. Meanwhile, Genesis moving forward here as well, trying to eat up this dead commander. Decurion armored assault tank, repelling that commander from pushing forward right now. Meanwhile, with a single D-gun, Flems manages to wipe out all the static defenses over here, and a whole bunch of ducks manage to make their way under the water and into the base of the blue commander, wiping out all the production, and suddenly, we've completely traded spots. Yeah, okay. Polygon in the backline here of the red team. The red commander Felms in the backline here of the blue team. Nobody is sure where anybody else is supposed to be. Felms escapes with it as well. Manages to reclaim a whole bunch of the corpses here. What was left after those D-guns were blown apart and the ducks had their way with that base. And now suddenly... yeah, I mean, we've got the destroyer here firing both depth charges and plasma projectiles at Sephi's commander. Not a convenient way out for the orange comm. Boom goes the commander as those dolphins try to wrap around and get a little more value. Ultimately, though, yeah, this trade is not really what it needs to be. Don't get me wrong, though, the dolphins can be very dangerous. With the near-perfect surrounds, dolphins can trade almost as efficiently as frigates. The only caveat to that is that they have to work a lot harder for it. They will oftentimes shoot each other, and you need quite a tremendous number of them. Not an even number of metal, but about an even number of units. It can be done, but it's very, very difficult and very expensive. And as you can see, those dolphins are all but destroyed, with the blue commander trying to rebuild the base over here. Yeah, one construction tower at a time, while the red ducks move under the seas here to try and do a bunch of damage. T2 Laboratory on the front line. We are 12 minutes into this game, and I spy with my little eye a Razorback headed out from the back line. My goodness, these guys play fast. Absolutely no hesitation. Oh no. What is this? Polygon has made his way up onto land and is now headed towards the T3. The D-gun? What are we going for here? Oh, he's gonna go for a capture command. No way! Polygon going for the capture command on the laboratory right here, hoping to capture all that metal, hoping to utilize... I don't even know what you're gonna do. You're never gonna produce a T3 unit out of this thing. Just capturing just for style points. This is basically a checkmate situation. What do? Do you self-destruct the laboratory and admit defeat? Do you let Sephi... or rather, do you let Polygon capture the laboratory, and then all of a sudden, all that progress on the Razorback was for naught? He starts up a Marauder, oh my goodness. He starts killing Marauder, he's gonna keep capturing things. We're not gonna start any laser defenses, nothing like that. Polygon now actually dumping a lot of metal into this. Yeah, it goes for the D-gun, okay. Decides that it's not really worth it, goes for the D-gun and the AGO, eventually manages to get the laboratory. We arrive at the same result here. But, yeah, certainly... certainly a cheeky way of getting there. Razorback, I don't even know where the Razorback ended up at. I'm going to go ahead and guess that Genesis degunned it or something because it's no longer here on the front line. I don't see it anywhere. I don't even see a wreckage, which would indicate to me that it got blown apart by a disintegrator cannon. The backline has been torn asunder, and this has become a very unconventional game. With the Red Commander trying to hold it together right here, it really is only a matter of time before amphibious units start making their way up onto land. Indeed, we have a couple of pincer already produced here, ready to start harassing this line. Submarines coming out here to try and deal with ducks. They really aren't an efficient solution, though. As you can see, doing virtually nothing to the ducks. A slight tickling at the most. Yeah. Not enough to deal with this many ducks, especially for how expensive they are. 440 metal for that submarine versus 330 for the duck. It's a brutal cost-inefficient trade. Genesis holding the line right here. A good commander self-destruct right there might be enough to take out most of this army. Yeah, gonna go for it, but the yellow commander's paying attention. You might pull that off on a weaker commander, but fantastic you, 32 open skill and level 5 chevrons. Yeah, not gonna be fooled by a simple commander bomb right there. Does pull back the units. Manages to hold the line for the time being. Decurions and rail cannons and even a couple of barrages headed out into the water here to try and somewhat halt this push. We do have a resbot reclaiming as much as possible here. For 4 or 5 seconds of reclaiming has already paid for its own life, so that was efficient in a certain sense. Making the best of a bad situation, but man, the T3 is just nowhere to be found right here for the blue team. Ducks have made their way across the other side of the map here as well and are now popping up on land, where they will start to blast away at whatever they can. Pit bulls, welders, sprinters even might work. Any kind of armed defense to shut any of this down here. It's not going to be the case for the Green Commander, who's got a decent economy in the T2 to prove it, and is going into a couple of sharpshooters, which I don't think are the answer here. The Ducks are going to be more than happy to take one of those hits. Ooh, actually they can survive a hit from a sharpshooter. That's surprising. This is not ideal right here for the Green Comm. About to lose the fusion reactor as well. Does lose the fusion reactor as well as all the build power. And now suddenly the backline is in shambles. Well, Platypus trying to make a difference. Pincers trying to make a difference. T2 metal extractors have already gone down. Sushi Show trying to move in. Sets the commander to self-destruct here. Yeah, those pincer were pretty quick to turn around once that maroon comm was spotted there. 9 times out of 10, the commander of this base right here will have been killed or sacrificed as metal. Means that it's pretty safe to push into this base right here, and that's exactly what these pincer are thinking. Now going after the T2 mexes right now of Sephiroth 12, or Sephiroth the 12th, I can never remember. Those T2 mexes going down hurts a lot. So does the storages, though. And the pincer have definitely made a push here. Suddenly becoming very, very difficult to deal with. They're kind of all over the place, and it means that we have to pull units from the front line. Units that could have been quite useful for dealing with bases and whatnot up here. Yeah, Fiend's burning through this front, but eventually all this is cleaned up, and yeah, those T2 are going to make all the difference. Okay. Platypus going all the way around. We have a just mass submarine here, which is kind of interesting. Mass submarine, not necessarily the most efficient... Yeah, not really the most efficient composition, but it can be quite lethal if you get them into mass numbers. And then suddenly they snowball beyond what a destroyer can handle, and you start to lose your destroyers faster than they lose submarines. Once you get to that point, though, you're usually well and away into T2 economy, and that's kind of, you know, if you can already afford that, then there's not really a point. Wow, it looks like the blue team will manage to pressure the red into surrender. The Ducks were continuing to harass all around the bases. They had managed to knock the naval player down a couple of times. But it will be the blue team's resounding efforts, as well as their D-gun in the backline to take out the eco that sets them on the correct path. What a bizarre game. What a really, really bizarre game here on Failed Negotiations. Thanks a ton for watching, and if you did enjoy, please feel free to drop a like and subscribe to the Brightworks channel, as well as join the Discord channel, which is always linked down below, where there's other members submitting replays daily, just like this one. Have a lovely rest of your evening, though, folks, and I'll see you in the very next one. Peace out.